Hey Minties, I'm back. And this time I'm going to share some books, some spooky books that I think you should check out. Let's go. Okay, so the first one is Liminal Zone, The Liminal Zone by Junji Ito. So this came out this past year. I'm a huge Junji Ito fan. If you've seen any of my top horror pick videos, you'll know that I always recommend Junji Ito. He's my go-to for October for spooky reads, and I always joke that for me, he's like my comfort read. I can sit down with like a cup of cocoa and some blankets and just curl up with a Junji Ito book. There's just something different about it. If you haven't read any Junji Ito before, my favorite is Uzumaki. I recommend that the most. But if you've read that and you're looking for more Junji Ito books, I definitely recommend checking out The Liminal Zone. It's a little bit smaller than some of his other works. It's a collection of different stories, an anthology of these different stories that don't exactly interact with one another, but somehow still pull together as if they're part of the same kind of tone or theme. So Junji Ito put these together for the app Line, the Japanese app Line. It's like a messenger app / social media during COVID. Even though COVID is still happening, but you know what I mean, the height of COVID. So he put these together. They were meant for phone release. It's a few different stories in here. I'm a huge fan of all of them. Everything is going to be a surprise, I think. And honestly, if you've been a long time reader of Junji Ito, you might feel like I did and was very impressed with how much his art has grown and differed since I first started reading him. I can definitely tell that his style has improved tremendously. He used to have a little bit of the same face syndrome in some of his books, where similar characters look, or some characters look a little bit the same, kind of like Akira Toriyama Dragon Ball. He's got some like usual templates of people. Love this. I love the horror aspect of this. Unlike a lot of Western books, Western horror, there is a body horror element in here, but it never feels too grotesque, because most of it feels almost Lovecraftian, where it's not what you can believe it to be, because nothing ever makes sense in these. They don't follow a natural order of things. So if you're looking for a different type of horror or spookiness this October, I definitely recommend checking out The Liminal Zone. Love this. And it always looks so nice under the dust jacket. I always recommend getting your Junji Ito books in hardcover if you can. So first recommendation. Second one. Now this might not be for everybody, but it is for me. This is Clementine Book 1 by Tillie Walden. Tillie Walden is one of my favorite graphic novel artists and writers. Her work has always spoken to me really tremendously. I'm a huge fan. And so when I heard she was doing a book on Clementine, and I was so excited. So Clementine is from the Walking Dead Telltale, The Walking Dead Telltale video game. So it's a choose your own adventure, point and click adventure style video game based in the world of the comics of The Walking Dead. And personally, that video game is my favorite Walking Dead media that's ever come out. I've read the books, I've watched the show, I enjoy them. I love The Walking Dead video game. So Clementine is one of the major characters in that series, and Tillie writes about her, I believe, following the events of the main game series, because I didn't play the last one. But I believe this following those events. And it's just a journey. It's by her. She's Clementine's by herself. She runs into a group of other similarly aged people and kind of gets into a situation with them. I won't spoil it for you, but it is set like during winter. There's a lot of snow. They're up on a mountain near ski lifts and things like that. So just imagine that type of zombie situation. It is very typical Tillie Walden art. Unlike her usual things that have multiple colors, like a duotoned, you're dealing with a grayscale. I thought she captured Clementine very well. I know that people on the internet may disagree with me. Personally, Clementine's trauma, her her lack of trust for other people, I think that Tillie captured it really well while paying homage to the original game series, because we do get some nice flashbacks to some pretty impactful moments that I really remembered from playing the game. So that is Tillie Walden's Clementine, book 1. So I'm looking forward to book 2. Also is published by Image. Some of you may have seen me talk about this before, but I wanted to make sure I threw in more of a family-friendly, spooky read. You know, some of you have kids, some of you have cousins, nephews, nieces, little siblings, whatever, and maybe you're looking for something to share with them, because I know, like, most of us, or at least like me, I always want to make sure I'm sharing my interests with the generation younger than me selfishly, because 1, I want to be the cool aunt, and 2, it's just nice to have new people get excited about a thing that you're excited about, like comic books. And that is The Creepy Case Files of Margot Malou. I know for sure there's a second book out. I haven't read it. I'm not sure if there's a third one, so in the comments can help me. But when I heard about the second one, it's also very, very good. So the Creepy Case of Margot, or Creepy Case Files of Margot Malou, is a second publication by Drew Wang. And it deals with this kid who he and his family move into the city. He's dealing with some like spooky things under his bed, spooky monsters in the closet sort of deal. And he's talking to other kids and they recommend, you gotta go talk to Margot Malou. She's the one who deals with these. And it kind of ends up becoming this little kind of monster of the week situation where they team up. Margot Malou is like an investigator and she's friendly with these monsters. Almost like in a Buffy the Vampire Slayer way, where she'd show up at like the bars or whatever they're hanging out at, like, hey, you gotta stop gambling with kittens. You gotta cut that out. And like, okay, Buffy, you know, that kind of situation. I love the lines and the colors. I've talked about this a lot before, so you've probably seen me mention other videos. It's just that sort of like Sunday comics, like funnies sort of style it reminds me of. I love this. And I love the interesting shape of this book as well. It may be aggravating as a collector and in my bookcase, but it's so beautiful and worth it that I definitely recommend you check it out and add it to your collection. And show it to a younger kid in your life, or, you know, show it to anybody. Because like I've said before, all ages comic books are for all ages. Even if a book is, you know, kids or YA or whatever, it doesn't mean it's not for us adults as well. There's a tons of great books like in the DC younger kids selection that are very, very good, that I definitely recommend older DC fans check out. This next one's a long favorite of mine, and I believe this is my first Cullen Bunn book I've read. This was sent to me to review, and I did a review video of this a while ago, probably a couple years, which was crazy. That's Blood Feud. So I love this. It's a very like Hatfield McCoy sort of situation, these dueling families, but it's Southern and there's vampires involved and it's very fun. I think Cullen Bunn gets the voice of the South so right. As someone who has spent most of their life in Kentucky, I think he does such a great job. Reading this book, I can hear the dialogue being said. You know, you can't always get a feel for that sometimes when you read books, but this one, it felt like I was really watching a show than I was reading a comic book somehow. I love the art, I love the characters. I don't want to tell you too much because I'd rather you kind of be surprised by it by yourself. Of course, there's vampires, so there is blood and some body horror in that, but nothing any different than other big named horror graphic novels like, you know, Nailbiter or Harrow County or whatever. It's a good time. You never really know what's going to happen. They're very relatable characters, small town characters. I think you'll like it. Check it out. Next one. It wouldn't be me if I didn't recommend another Ezra Clayton Daniels book, like Upgrade Soul, which hopefully, if you watched my last video, you've checked out. This is another Ezra Clayton Daniels book, but this time with art by Ben Passmore. Is it art or is it? It is, it's art. So written by Ezra Clayton Daniels, illustrated by Ben Passmore, so co-creators on this book. It's another interesting style book. I have a lot of these like spooky books that are not your usual printing size, but I think that's really cool. It adds to it. This is published by Fantagraphics. So this is really cool. I feel like I've seen, since reading this, a few horror anthology like TV shows or movies that deal with a very similar premise. So this girl moves into a new apartment building downtown with a, you know, whole cast and crew. Robin, no. Say goodbye, Robin. Anyways, so Bottom feeders. She moves to a new apartment building. Something weird is happening. Something is in there. It doesn't make sense. And there's a whole cast and crew in the apartment building. It's been there forever. And there's some sort of mystery, monster, ghost related thing happening there. And it also deals with racism and gentrification in the area. So there are themes of that as well. This is so colorful. You don't often see that with a thriller or a horror supernatural book. You know, typically we've got a lot of darker colors. It fits the same theme, but that is not the case with Bottom Feeders. And trust me, it is still just as interesting and spooky and scary, despite the bright colors that you often see. I love the characters here. I love our main character because she's just trying to do her best here, just trying to live, you know, have a reasonably priced apartment without dealing with crazy neighbors and a potentially spooky being somewhere there. Love this. So I definitely recommend checking it out. You know, if you're into some unique horror books or maybe like old, like 70s, 80s sci-fi horror, I think you'll like this. I think you'll find it fun. And you can't go wrong with Ezra Clayton Daniels. I'll be his biggest fan forever, no matter what he puts out. So check it out. Okay. So the last one, unfortunately, I do not own, or unless maybe I do and I've forgotten where I put it, or I've lent it out. That is not uncommon in my life. So we will put in a picture of it for you. All right, and that book is The Me You Love in the Dark by Scotty Young. So I read this past year. It is a one and done trade, so it is self-contained. And it is about this girl who moves into this like spooky house, this woman, sorry, who moves into this very, very old Victorian looking house. And she does art, and she's had sort of a artist block, and she's looking for a place to go, kind of like artist in residence sort of situation while she finds inspiration to paint again. And so she finds this place and she's like, this is perfect. And as every, you know, wannabe goth girl growing up, I understand to live in this very old house, very dramatic, and drink wine and do my art sounds really cool. I would get bored immediately with comic books or video games, but you know, the dream is there. So she moves into this house, but there's a being already living in there. This sort of, I hate to use the word Lovecraftian all the time, but that's, even though I'm, you know, not a fan of the guy, I feel like that's the best comparison, because the being in there, this monster, this kind of shadow monster, has very different forms. You know, the base is sort of a regular person, but up here is always heads and eyes and things. But basically the two of them start a friendship, which then gradually becomes more of a romantic relationship, to the point where it's almost it is an obsessive relationship between the two, and it's great. So if you're into monster love, you can look that up online. There is a new kind of romance that fits into that category. This might be for you. If you just like a spooky situation that's not too scary, it's just unsettling, I think you'd like this. I really enjoyed it because really the whole thing is an allegory for what abusive relationships look like and how those can progress. And I've always really appreciated in books where, I guess the good thing about comic books and other media is that sometimes you can deal with an issue in a way that is more accessible and approachable, by making the situation not blunt, not exactly as it is, but take that situation and apply it to something else, where you can kind of be in there, see that situation in a world that is so exaggerated that would not match your own. I really loved it. I thought it was great. I love the art. I love a spooky, not healthy romance. You know, if you're a fan of the opera, I think you'd like The Me You Love in the Dark. So check it out. And again, it's a one and done, and that's fantastic. I think it wraps up very well. I think it delivers exactly what it's supposed to, exactly what it intends to. Yeah, I really recommend it. So those are my recommendations, little recommendations for October. Now, this is not my top 10 list. This is just me giving you some extra recommendations to check out this October. If you want to see my top 10 or whatever, there are previous videos in the past. We look up top 10 horror or whatever, and you see my face eventually. you can check that one out. So let me know what you guys are reading this year. What are some new horror books, thriller books, psychological books that have come out this year that you recommend? Because I think there's a ton of them that I probably missed that I'd like to know more about. So please let me know in the comments below. I hope you like this video. Comment down below any, I don't know, suggestions for future videos. Subscribe for future videos, see Omar. Oh, and check me out Tuesdays live on this channel for Old Reader, New Reader. Always looking for recommendations for guests, topics, what have you. So come hang out with me in the chat. It's live, so we get the, one-to-one feedback there. And check out our Patreon, of course, for extra videos, content, sneak peeks and stuff. I mean, you guys know, you already hear. But thank you so much, and I hope you guys have a very good Halloween. See you next time.